Prajanic, would you kindly start the meeting with the notifications that are relevant to what we're going to do tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. In accordance to the applicable statutes of the state of Illinois and ordinance of the city of Prospect Heights, notice is hereby given that the City Council regular teleconference meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Prospect Heights will be held on Monday, March 22nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Mayor Nicholas J. Helmer presiding. This meeting will be recorded and available on the city's website. Attendees who wish to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be provided an opportunity during the teleconference. There is a 5-minute time limit for speakers, during which teleconference meeting it is anticipated there will be discussion and consideration of, and if so determined, action upon the matters contained in the following. Call to order and roll call.
All right, let me take that from there then. Thank you. To determine a quorum and start the meeting, we will have a roll call. Remember, we need 3 alderpersons there, which is a quorum out of a total of 5. So let's get that going by calling the roll. Alderman Cameron, Ward 1. Alderman Cameron, Ward 1. All right, we can get back through. Alderman Quinn, Ward 2.
Present.
All right.
Mayor, this is Cameron. I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute.
No problem. Alderman Cameron is here. Alderman Quinn, I believe, said she was here. Alderman Morgan Adams, Ward 3.
Here, I'm here. I'm present, Your Honor.
Okay. And then we want Alderman Dash, Ward 4, who has an excused absence tonight.
No, I'm here this evening, Mayor.
Oh, you came a long way. Good.
I came a long way. Virtual meetings do wonders for being out of town, I guess.
They certainly do. And I believe you told me that, but I forgot, so I'm glad you're here. Alderman Dolick, Ward 5.
I am here, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Alderman, well, we have the 5 aldermen, so we want Treasurer Richard Tibbetts, who is here. He just spoke a little bit ago.
Present.
Thank you. City Clerk Prajanic, and she is present. And I am Mayor Nick Helmer, and we will proceed to our agenda. Go ahead. You got it.
Yes, we have item 2, approval of the minutes, March 8th, 2021, workshop teleconference meeting minutes.
All right, so we need a
motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion. Second. We do have a second. Any other discussion, changes, or additions? If not, take a roll call, please.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams.
Aye.
Alderman Quinn.
Aye.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Alderman Dash.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the appointment, confirmation, and proclamations by City Administrator Joe Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor, item 3, we have no appointments, confirmations, or proclamations, which would bring us to 4 public comment on agenda matters. Madam Clerk, has anyone submitted anything?
Not on agenda matters, Joe. Thank you. But if there's someone who, I'm so sorry. If somebody has not submitted but would like to talk about agenda matters, please step forward.
I think we do that later, Joe, don't we?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And which brings us to 5 staff elected officials and commission reports. And we do have a Chicago Executive Airport report this week, Mr. Mayor, from Director Bill Kearns.
Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Elected officials, city staff, and fellow citizens. I will just take a few minutes and update you on the activities at Chicago Executive Airport. It is a busy time. You know what they say about Chicago, there were two seasons, and that's winter and road construction. I think at Chicago Executive, it's snow plowing and construction, so we have a very similar pattern. I'm going to share a picture with you, if I might, here. Just one second. It looks like it's disabled, Patrick, or...
Mr. Kearns, let me get you in share mode here.
Okay. Well, you're doing that. I can move on to a couple other items.
You should be allowed now, sir.
Okay. So first, the first item I'm going to share, we're well on our way with our U.S. Customs facility. We're on track for completion around the 4th of July. That, as you may recall, is on the southwest quadrant, right off Palatine Road near Wolf Road there. The concrete was poured during this past week, and so that is done. And then we're anticipating that we'll have the brick exterior done during this week. So, you know, as long as weather permits. As ribbon cutting nears, we'll be sending out invitations, of course, to everyone with the city. Also, another exciting thing we have going on is Atlantic putting up a new hangar. That is hangar 43. This is in the northwest quadrant of the airport. The steel structure started to go up, and they're on track for late summer, early fall completion. There were invitations sent out for a March 30th groundbreaking, I believe, in the past. If you haven't got one, please contact Jennifer at the airport. She can certainly make sure that you get that, okay? So those are the only pictures that I had. A few other items. Our fiscal year 2022 budget is been approved by the airport board, and that will now move and be brought to the City of Prospect Heights City Council and the Village of Wheeling for final approval. Jason will be working with Joe Wade on getting that on the agenda for sometime here in the next couple meetings. We have our residential sound insulation program. The first round of testing is actually going to begin next Monday, so 1 week from today. We had planned on doing this work during February, but the snowy conditions precluded residents from allowing us to come traipsing into their home, doing the different, setting up the equipment and so forth that needed to be done. We have 438 applications so far for the noise treatments. And if the program stays on schedule, we'd be starting the construction on the first round of homes later this year. Finally, the last item, our Rock and Run the Runway, which, as you know, normally was set to coincide with 4th of July weekend or a weekend around there. We've pushed that back and have a tentative date set of August 21st. We're optimistic about being able to host the run event and have the evening music event this year, but we'll, of course, be monitoring all of the local, state, and CDC guidance leading up to the event. So those are really the only things as an update that I have, and I'd, of course, be open to any questions that I could answer.
All right, anyone want to ask questions? Say your name first and ask your question. Getting off subject for a moment, Bill, you have a golf outing coming up for the Dollars for Scholars event. It's a ways away, and hopefully everything will be fine when we get there.
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. August 16th is the date at Rolling Green Country Club, and we'd love to have as many people as can join us. We'll do it safely again this year. Golf happens to be one of the few things that, even with COVID, that you can do safely if it's done properly, and we had a great event last year. One of the few that happened even with COVID. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you for your presentation. I don't hear anyone that wants to ask you questions. So if that is the case, then thank you for coming this evening. And things are happening at the airport. That's the easiest way to say there's a lot of progress going on there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, Joe, back to you.
Joe, I think you're muted, sir.
Sorry about that, Peter. We do have a February Treasurer's Report by Finance Director Sherry Grafin. Sherry?
Hi, everybody. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, visitors and guests. Our monthly finance report is ready, and I'm going to introduce Bob Tannehill, Assistant Finance Director. He is going to go through the report with us.
Thank you, Sherry. Good evening, everyone. And just say something, the mayor looks like Gonzaga might be able to pull it out with Illinois losing, which was my favorite team.
Well, I will say they had a little tough time at the end. They forgot how to put the ball in the basket, but they did win by 15. And I'm very pleased with that.
So, to go through the Treasury report for February, we already have 10 months ending. We're getting pretty close to end of the year. So far, up to the 10 months, we're at a revenue about 84% of budget. Our total expenses reflect about 65% of the budget. A couple of highlights with our revenues. The income tax, sales tax, and use tax are continuing to being strong through the end of February. And it's mostly due to conservative budgeting for the COVID impacts of this year. Vehicle stickers are up, and that's due to some collection efforts from last year, prior year, and we're also seeing a nice consistent influx of people coming in and purchasing their stickers this year, also through the mail. Our motor fuel tax revenue is up, and again, that's from additional allocations from the state that have come in. So far we're looking okay. I think a lot of it was due to how everything was budgeted last year regarding the COVID situation, and we also had some CARES Act money coming in, which has also helped out the city. So we have we're looking okay, and we're hopefully that this coming year with the state lifting some restrictions, we'll hopefully be able to see some increase in the food and beverage and hotel tax towards hopefully by the end of the year, see a nice increase in there. So if there's any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
All right, Sherry, are we on back to you?
The finance report, as Bob said, we are near the end of the year. We're right on target, basically 83% of our revenues at 83% of the year expired. So we do expect to finish strong with our vehicle sticker month coming in here this month and getting ready to start the new year.
All right, that sounds progressive and good. Money coming in is always my favorite phrase. So, and the reason for that is obvious. We need all the help we can get. Who's next, Joe?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's the second half of our budget presentation tonight. The last meeting we went over the operating budget, which is the standard public works, police, city hall. Tonight it's the capital budget and other funds. We did receive some news that we're watching just today. Just want to inform you and the council of the governor's proposed budget for the state. is proposing a 10% cut in the local government distributive fund. And Sherry Grafin and I discussed this and what the impact of that would be on our budget this year. Obviously, it's not good. We've had that before. We've been up and down this ladder before with cuts to that revenue. It's significant. So I don't mean to put a damper on tonight's presentation, but this news just came up this afternoon. Sherry, I think you're estimating it, and it's hard because also there's changes in how much unemployment is taxed, and certainly we're still in the COVID recession. But I believe you looked at as maybe a hit of roughly $250,000 or more to our budget.
Right, Joe, we're looking at 300, basically the three factors.
Okay.
That'll be part of the presentation when we get to the end.
I just wanted to call it out because it's significant. But at that, Sherry, go ahead. Let's delve into the capital fund and the other funds tonight.
Okay. All right, so here we are at part 2 of our budget presentation for fiscal 22, and we're into pretty much the big dollars of our budget here in the capital improvement plan. We've updated our plan for the next 5 years, and we are here to present some projects and some dollars and move forward to complete our presentation of the budget. So we have our slide with our capital improvement plan. A lot of projects are in process, and we have a lot planned for the coming years. Here's the overall summary, basically our 5-year projection. The top half of this schedule denotes the categories of improvement as well as how we're planning. Again, planning is our future costs. Our 5-year total, as you can see, is $16 million, and a lot of it is front-loaded. We have some pretty aggressive plans for fiscal 22, 23, 24, and we're hoping that coupled with some grant funding and awards, our MFP and our capital fund, sewer fund, that we are able to accomplish these in the most optimistic way. So the funding sources, you can see spread year by year where the money we anticipate will come from. And I highlighted that top line, possible to be determined grant awards. That's an important line right there. We're anticipating applying for and hopefully being awarded almost $8.5 million in order to accomplish our current plan. MFT, we have some funding coming in. Our fund balance is going to be about $900,000 at the end of fiscal 21. So we're going to peel about $320,000 off next year for finishing up the Schoenbeck Sidewalk project. Capital fund funding, you'll see, is almost $5 million across the 5 years, with the biggest chunk coming out in fiscal 22. Lastly, we have the sewer fund project, the televising project, wrapping up over the next several years, and so we will discuss that as we get into the next detail slide. So this slide gives us a summary for those who are new to council and new to our audience from the inception of our capital fund back in 2018. We had already accumulated about $7 million for capital improvements, which was set aside at that time. And so we have that as our starting point for capital improvements. Since then, we've had some transfers in from Solid Waste Fund, a nice $530,000. The Tourism Fund contributed for projects that we did specifically in that district, and we had additional funds coming in from the general fund. So total to date contributions has been $8.2 million. 2018, 19, 20, 21 costs are all listed, and so our net remaining funds are about $5.6 million. If we take the costs from above and spread those out and analyze our fund balance in the second bottom half of this schedule, it says remaining funds with 100% in grant awards. So our beginning number is 5.6, and our fund balance will decline over several years based on assuming we get 100% grant funding, and we'll pretty much be funded for the 5-year plan with that assumption. However, that's a big assumption, assuming we're going to get $8.5 million of funding so that we can move forward with our project. The next line, the last line there, shows us remaining funds if we get no grant awards, and that shows you that we'll be probably out of cash by fiscal year 22-23, which is 1 year away. So anywhere in between there, I would say, is the range of where we'll fall. We'll make some grants, we'll make more grants or less, but that is where we're looking at as our position goes right now. So did you want to add in here about that?
That's a very good summary of the big picture, and just so we have a few new council members since the last time we did a transfer from the solid waste fund. And just as a matter of background information, the justification for that money is there's probably no greater source of deterioration on our streets than the solid waste trucks. And you could look this up. The combination of the weight of a solid waste truck plus the starting and stopping, you probably might even be able to see it on your streets, where there's the rumple strips that are very close to where you set your garbage out. So a couple years ago, we thought when we had a larger fund balance in the solid waste fund, certainly more so than what we would need for the tipping fees and solid waste agency, Northern Cook County membership and things like that. And we thought, well, since this is the cause of a lot of street maintenance expenses, then this also should be a source of support for street maintenance as well. So that's the reason we take money from the solid waste fund and transfer it to capital. And you could look it up. A solid waste truck, I forget the equivalent, but it's like the same amount of deterioration as thousands of cars. So that's the reason for that. Looking ahead, the street maintenance projects that we have looking forward to for this year, the big one is the Old Willow Seminole project that recently, in the last couple of months, the City Council approved a construction engineering agreement for a firm to do that. It's presently going through the IDOT bidding process, and that work will be undertaken this year. It will be completed. Most likely it will start, roughly maybe a little bit before, a little bit after Memorial Day, and will be completed later in the summer. That is largely funded by a surface transportation program funding grant. Essentially, we're looking at, I think, about $77,000 of city money to pay for what's close to an $800,000 project. Mount Prospect also has a share. As background information, maybe about 4 years ago, we did a rating system of our engineers, Gawalt Hamilton. They evaluated all of our streets and looked at the pavement condition, the cracks, the deterioration of the pavement, what information they could garner as to the problems that may be in the subsurface. And from that, Old Willow Seminole was rated as the worst street in the city. So this is a good project, and it also leverages surface transportation program money. That is only available for select qualifying streets in the city. It's unlikely we'll see that opportunity again for a long time. That's what we have for.
Can I jump in just real quick? Pete, could you advance the slide, please? So there's our street maintenance summary that Joe had just looked over, had just spoke about with our projects that are planned for fiscal 22.
So that's where we're at for street maintenance. Moving ahead to drainage improvements and stormwater projects. And I'm on the phone, so I'm not following the slides. Pete, if you can move us to drainage improvements and stormwater projects. The opportunity that we have before us, and it's coupled with a couple very significant funding sources. we'd like to talk about the Arlington Countryside Stormwater Management Improvement. This has been identified for, I believe, almost 40 years. There have been a couple of engineering studies that have looked at it. In a city that has a number of flooding problems, this has been identified as probably the number one priority, because the flooding in that area has also impacted homes. It hasn't been just the backyards or front yards. It's actually gone into homes and garages and so forth. It's a real problem. Within the last 2 years, we've received, I think about $400,000 plus of Rebuild Illinois allocation. And that was through the sponsorship of Representative Walker and Senator Gillespie. And then recently, with the within this month, the COVID relief and stimulus legislation from Washington, the city has been identified as an area of $1.96 million. So that we're at $2.4 million of other source money. If we couple that with capital money that we do have, we can move this project forward. And as I stated, it's been a 40-year goal of the city with the approximately $2.4 million of other source money. This is an opportunity that we can move forward with it. So that's something I'll be asking for the council's response to that tonight. Please know that the $400,000 that we've received from the state is specific to this project. It's not fungible to go to another. So if we turn our back on that money's not in a savings account. It's specific to this project. The key to that is that's over a $3 million project. We've completed engineering. The design engineering has been completed. The status of it's before the Cook County Department of Transportation. We need a permit along Camp McDonald Road, and also the Illinois Department of Transportation as we cross Rand Road. So as soon as those permits are provided, that project is ready to go to bid if the council desires. Now, certainly anything that we talk about in the capital improvements plan tonight is just the plan. If a council approves it, it's only approving the plan, meaning that more formal approval will come back to the city council for items such as construction bidding, engineering bidding, construction engineering bidding, things like that. So no means I want you to think that whatever you sign off on tonight is a foregone conclusion. There are a number of points where it comes back to the council for approval. But to give you a sense of the dollars involved, I think $3 million is roughly the cost to address the Arlington Countryside Stormwater Project. We also know that areas to the east of that neighborhood, basically between Arlington Countryside and really Elmhurst Road, there are also stormwater needs there. Very rough calculations of improvements for those neighborhoods are roughly $8 to $11 million. But this could be a start. Any questions about the Arlington Countryside project? Because that's the certainly the most immediate concern for this year's capital budget. Okay. Well, the other ones that we have tonight is Willow Road construction. That's the elevation of Willow Road and also Owen Street. We've had a number of meetings with the neighborhood. Neighbors along Hillcrest would like to opt out of that, so we won't be elevating that. That project still has some work to do. There's coordination. Our city engineer had a phone meeting with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. There are a number of clearances, but we're working very closely with Metropolitan Water Reclamation District and Cook County Department of Transportation, and we're trying to move that project forward, but there's just more work to do. So that's what we have for drainage and stormwater projects. Peter, could you please move the slide to sidewalk projects? The item listed for payment this year for sidewalks 21-22, $269,000 and $51,000. Those numbers are actually what is due the state for the Schoenbeck sidewalk. It'd be the city share of that project. It was I think the total cost of that was more than double that roughly, and that was through both combination of federal and state of Illinois safe routes to school sidewalk. I think that's roughly about a 50-50 program. So that's a payment for work that's already done. Projects that are forthcoming, as you see listed, are Wolf Road and Camp McDonald. Just as background information for particularly the newer council members, those sidewalks on Wolf Road would be prohibitively expensive if it was only the city could do it. I think Wolf Road sidewalks, all total, north and south extensions, are really over a $2 million project. And the reason being is there are a few areas of complication. One, crossing the railroad, there's signalization, that's an additional cost. And the other reason, particularly the northern extension of Willow Road, there are some very deep ditches that have to be addressed with culverts and filling in order to be able to construct a sidewalk in that right of way. So that's why these sidewalks are very expensive. The city has worked to leverage as many possible grant sources that we can obtain. And just off the top of my head for Wolf Road, we have Cook County Invest in Cook grants has supported the project. RTA, Regional Transportation Authority, Access to Transit has provided some support. We have applications pending for congestion mitigation and air quality money, and also we have grants pending for Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funding. So we have a number of grant sources that are minimizing the city's share of that, which will knock down the cost to local costs to roughly about 20% of the project. Personally, I believe it's needed. Sometimes if you go over there, particularly in winter, after snow plowing, you'll see there's no area for people to walk to. So they're on the street, sharing the roadway, pedestrians and vehicles is dangerous. It's also, and I know with COVID it's down, but when things come back to normal, the train station, I'm certain that the train station passengers will pick up, and that neighborhood taps into the east side where there's a number of apartments and condominiums. And we're the first train station outside of O'Hare Airport. So that gives you a sense of what this could be for transportation to O'Hare. And O'Hare is one of the largest employers in the region, in the area. So that's the item behind that. The previous council, I think, brought before them a number of resolutions for grant applications, and all of those have been approved by the council. We don't do those on our own without council support. So are there any questions about upcoming sidewalk projects?
Joe, this is Alderman Dolick, and Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a quick comment on this. This is in my area, and I travel that area a good bit every day. And as Joe just mentioned, the amount of foot traffic and bicycle traffic year-round using Wolf Road is quite a bit, and it really is a safety issue. And a lot of people, even though COVID has changed things recently, but I'm sure it'll get back to normal. A lot of people trying to access the train station along that area. So I just wanted to say that I do see that on a daily basis, and I'm hoping that we can continue to pursue this in terms of grants or whatever is necessary. I know the city cannot afford it on its own, but this really is a safety issue for pedestrian and bicycle traffic along that area. So I just wanted to reinforce Joe's comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You know, Joe, what I'd like to do is go back to item 5 on the agenda, the staff, elected officials, and commission reports. I'd like to start with Alderman Cameron, Ward 1.
Hi, Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
All right, Alderman Quinn, Ward 2.
First of all, I want to thank the staff on all the hard work for the road, especially getting the grants, because I know that's added work and everyone appreciates that. I also want to mention today is World Water Day, and the theme this year is valuing water. And I know it's something important in our community, but when we think about the fact that 2.2 billion people in the world do not have access to safe drinking water, it kind of brings us to perspective. So just on that note, I want everyone to think about how we can conserve water and take care of the water in our community, because it's very important and it's a finite resource. So just wanted to share that with you.
Well, thank you. Peter, can we get off these slides and back to people's pictures when we're talking? Alderman Morgan Adams, please. Ward 3.
Wendy, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I wanted to also thank our staff for doing such a great job in pursuing these grants and awards, which I know if we didn't have them, the city couldn't afford these projects on our own. And I want to also wish everyone a happy Passover and Easter. Passover starts on March 27th and ends on April 4th. I know Easter's coming up on April 4th, and wish everyone a happy holiday. And I also want to bring up that the Rotary Club of River Cities is having its annual fundraiser, which is our Classic 5000, which is unfortunately going to be virtual this year, but still it's a great fundraiser. River Cities consists of Prospect Heights, Des Plaines, and Mount Prospect. It's a great club. They do a lot of wonderful things for scholarships for students and also for community and our state and national in terms of dealing with all kinds of issues, hunger issues, water problems, sanitation, and other issues and projects that the world and that we need in this world. So I want to thank everybody and hope that they can join us for our fundraiser on April 10th of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Dash, Ward 4.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. Ward 5, Alderman Dolick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report tonight.
All right. And how about Treasurer Tibbetts? Are you available for a report?
I don't have an official report, Mayor, but I do have a comment about our impending cutoff of the vehicle sticker purchases without penalty. That is coming up next week, and one of the things that I noticed along the way in our communications, both through the e-news newsletter, the Spotlight News that we do on video, is that the text of some of these messages seems to wander, identifying the cutoff date between March 30th and April 1st. Given the fact that next week, March 30th is right in the middle of the week, April 1st is the Thursday, I would recommend, and I would appreciate if the council would comment on this also, that because our penalty is 50% of the cost of the vehicle stickers if they buy them late, that we basically pass on charging the penalty at least on April 1st, if not April 2nd, and finish off the week with no penalty on vehicle sticker sales, and then enable that penalty after Easter, which would be the 5th of April. Now, that's my suggestion and request of you and the council at this time.
All right, let's get that, Joe, you and I will try to work something out and inform the council.
Mr. Mayor, this is Alderman Dolick. I would be very much in support of that. I just wanted to make that known.
All right, thank you.
This is Alderman Morgan Adams. I would also support that.
All right, we were gonna come back to everyone, but go ahead. We have two now. Who else would
And
like
this
to?
is Alderman Cameron, and I would approve of that as well.
Right, and then we have, what are you doing, Alderman Quinn?
We need to make a motion for it because the deadline's gonna pass if we don't do something tonight. So can we make a motion?
I don't think so. I think it's not on the agenda. And, John O'Driscoll, what, do you think?
You're correct, Mayor, but I think administratively, Joe and I can put our heads together perhaps.
All right, let's do that. Do we have everyone speaking on this matter? Are we missing anyone, Alderman Dash?
Yeah, I would support the, deferring the late fees as proposed.
All right. And, did I miss anyone? If I did, speak up, please.
City Clerk?
Sure, you're an elected official. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just also wanted to wish everyone a happy Passover and Easter, and to thank everyone who are continuously abiding CDC and state rules to continuously still wear your masks, please. We get reports every now and then that our community isn't abiding, but I'm reaching out and asking everyone, please, to continue to do so. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. My comment is simple. The state is coming back to us for funds that they owe us. That was part of the charter of getting funds back from the state, and now they want to take 10%. Joe, I think we estimated around $200,000 of lost funds. Is that correct?
Sherry actually has taken in some other calculations, and it's closer to 300,000. So
my point is this: we work very hard to obtain grant provisions, get money through grants, to cut costs, to do quite a few things. I think two great things happened in the last couple of months, and that was the opening of the Fen Leaf business, which we have estimated that may bring in as much as $500,000 or more for the state. We also opened up, and 11 of our staff members and city workers attended the grand opening of Hawthorne Racetrack's Point, Joe, what do they call it? Point what?
PointsBet.
Yeah, PointsBet. So that means you can walk around with your cell phone and bet money, not necessarily through them, but betting is now legal. Something people went to jail for over the years. But the good part of that is we will also have replacement money from that source. We have to keep looking for replacement money, because if you turn around too quickly, someone's on your back trying to get money from us. Dan Peterson is going to report in a moment, I'm sure, about the restaurant coming back, Nico's on the corner. So we have to keep looking. And thanks to the 11 people, or maybe there were more, that came to the opening of the PointsBet Hawthorne event. It was a great event. The place is gorgeous. I mean, they have spent a lot of money. I can't watch 70 TVs at one time, but maybe in future generations we'll have 70 eyes and we'll be able to do it. So let's move on to staff and other officials. City Administrator Joe Wade.
No report tonight, sir. Thank you.
All right. Police Chief, Assistant Administrator Peter Falcone.
No report today, sir.
All right. Police Chief Sidewalk.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Couple things. This summer, we're hoping to get our youth outreach going again. Just all depends on the venues where we send our group with our kids. So if they're open, we will get our youth outreach again going. We weren't able to do it last summer because nothing was open. Then also, speaking of golf outings, our police and fire golf outing, we're going to be doing that on June 10th. It'll be a Thursday, so we'll have that out there. And then my team's still alive in the tournament. Go Blue. That's it.
Forget your team. Sorry, I said that. Public Works Director Roscoe.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. We're thrilled to have the winter season falling behind us rapidly. It was a long winter. We really look forward to an outstanding spring and summer and a little more ability to see our residents and talk to people face to face maybe coming up here. But we really appreciate the support of all the elected officials and staff. We all have a lot of difficulty with different things we go through each day. And our staff and elected officials have been very supportive in everything we've done. So we're always hearing thanks from you guys. Thanks back to you. We talked about it as a crew, and we really feel that this last few years, you've just been very good in helping us do what we need to do to make this city a better place. So thank you. That's it, sir.
All right, thank you. Sherry had her turn. Attorney O'Driscoll.
No report, Mayor.
All right. Our Deputy Clerk Schulteis is out of town, but I know she's joined us. Karen, do you have anything?
Just one thing, Mayor. People should have gotten their statement of economic interest. Anybody who that I put on the list that should be getting it, you need to fill it out by before May 1st deadline.
All right, good. That's a requirement. Mm-hmm. All right, so we've done that. Joe?
Hey, Mayor, this is the Director Peterson. Do you want to hear some news?
You're not on the air yet, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. We're getting towards the end there. Good news is I met with the construction crew over at Nico's this morning. As I had reported previously, the owners had looking at a new restaurant concept as their operator partner. They had a separation, and so they're back in the building today doing work, doing some revision measurements, and so expect to get construction plans here in the very near future. And they're talking about a early fall, hopefully construction goes well this summer, but a late summer, early fall opening, which will be great getting that restaurant back online. As we reported last month, Fry the Coop had expanded hours and they are doing extremely well. Hopefully they can get additional staff so they can open up to 7 days a week instead of just the 5 that they are now. So those are good economics news that we have. We are seeing, we have a new business that's going to be on the PZBA in April to move into the Milwaukee Plaza upon a special use approval. And then right now, we also have the start of the spring construction plans and remodeling plans. The nice weather that we've experienced this last week has spurred folks to come into the office. So we will be seeing additional work on that front. That is my report for this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, keep in mind that that's all our jobs. I can't remember if in my 12 years an alderman or, well, you of course have done a great job, Dan, but any alderman has brought in a new business venture. And that's got to change. You've got to knock on doors of people you know in the businesses you frequent and solicit, say, hey, you got any friends? We got some space here in our shopping centers or in our other places, because don't let this thing of people grabbing our money catch up to us, because we've got to keep alert, we've got to look for business, we've got to talk business, that we're business friendly. And we have been, Dan, I think you'll agree with that, and Joe. We've tried to, when there was a problem, we tried to figure out how to change that problem into production, and we did that. But it's still, they're still coming at us, just like the state has done now, and we need more business. It doesn't hurt at a party or anywhere else to mention, you know, Prospect Heights is really doing well. They brought in new businesses, and you know your businesses. That chicken, what's the name of it? It's
Fry the Coop.
Fry the Coop. I've been saying fly the coop for a while. Fry the Coop. I went over there. That is a beautiful enhancement of the building that they now occupy. I think it was an old Wendy's, if I remember correctly, or something like it. So people are spending their money. Now Nico's finally is moving from the standpoint of getting things done there, and they have new ideas, and they will bring sales tax, which we live on. Remember, sales tax is where our major funds come from. We can do a lot of things. We can do grants. We can do a lot of things. But sales tax is probably the most important thing. We have to keep focusing on it. So please, do your best. Talk it up. Sometimes you just talk it up, and you know, a month later, somebody comes up and say, "Weren't you saying that there's a vacant at you know, at the space over on one of the shopping centers and so on?" Please look for new business in any.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask you a question? What is the status with the Chamber of Commerce? Because generally, chambers are pretty helpful in bringing new business in. Do we have any update on our Chamber of Commerce?
Well, you may know that last or so, they eliminated us from their titles. It used to be Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce, and they eliminated our name. It wasn't a happy event, but no, they have not been helpful. And I've invited them to come over, and I'll tour with them and whatever they want to do. They have an economic development type person on staff, but they haven't taken me up on that issue. So right now, I would say that they have not produced anything for us. And their excuse has been, not excuse, but their comment has been that we don't have any members on the chamber, and we don't sponsor any members, and so on and so forth. Good idea. I mean, you know, it's.
What about our Economic Development Committee? Are they, you know, working on anything with Dan?
I don't know that. We have an Economic Development Committee. I don't think we've even called for a meeting this past year, you know, and Dan is aware of that, and I'm sure he'll work on it. But it's very frustrating to me that people just stand up and say, we don't want Prospect Heights anymore, when we're doing all the things we were doing. You know, anything we do benefits our neighbors too. You know, we've got 4 neighbors on all sides. Some of them are supportive. Our Heights at times supports us. Well, Prospect has always supported us. Wheeling has had changes in their staff with regard to mayor and president rather. And, you know, we get along, but not, like, we could do better. They just put in a whole shopping center, which is something we can't do. But just keep your eyes and ears open and try to find something that fits. Chamber would be a good idea, but we'll look into it again. They kind of treated us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, Joe, back to your issues.
All right, sir, thank you. I believe we were at the sewer system and equipment. Peter, if you could bring that slide up. since we took over, the city of Prospect Heights absorbed the Old Town Sanitary District a few years ago. I think that was maybe about 2016, 2015 or so. We've really worked to try to systematize a plan for recognizing and undertaking capital improvements. And the idea behind that is with the sanitary sewer system, you don't want to find out when things go wrong through backups and problems. You try to be proactive and be ahead of it. So when we set the rate base, much of that was looking toward reinvesting into the system. For 2 years, we undertook an extensive analysis of the sewer system through televising and cleaning, and that gave us information that is very important to respond in a proactive and planned manner to recognize where improvements were needed. In some cases, we saw where the system was failing. We had to go in and do reconstruction of the sewer. And in other cases, we saw where it wasn't that bad, that we could address problems where there was collapsing through relining the sewer. The net effect of it is this provides a proactive, rational basis for responding to sewer problems rather than an after the fact, after there's a reported problem. So that is working. We are budgeting almost $245,000 a year for relining and construction. There are also some very important work that we do that's maybe considered lower tech. That's just root cutting and continued cleaning. All of these are very important in a way to operate the sewer system. Mark Roscoe is on the call. Mark, is there anything that you'd like to add as to how our planned improvements to the sanitary sewer system is functioning?
No, Joe, you hit it right on the head. We've been very fortunate to alleviate a lot of disasters by the program we're on right now. We've found, doing this mass televising over the last couple of years, spots where the sewer was down to maybe a 15 or a 20% of its capacity due to the settling of the earth, root invasion, things like that. And Joe, or I should say Mr. Mayor, that's critical. Our timing, we're a little bit behind on a few things, and that's why we're in this catch-up game still from the changeover from Old Town. But the improvements that we do are invisible to the resident. It's hard to explain sometimes the massive amount of trouble that we would have been in if we weren't doing what we're doing. Joe has really helped lead this down the right path and put us all in the right area. We still do have sewer problems and backups, but the extent of what we could be having is so reduced. And I gotta thank council again. Getting onto this plan a few years back is really setting us up to serve our residents well. And in the big picture of cost, it's really a bargain. Joe, I hope that helps explain it.
Thank you, Mark. Yes. And that concludes the sewer system. We will continue. We anticipate a continued reinvestment in the system of construction and engineering costs, roughly about $250,000 or a bit more with engineering. And to do that on a systemic basis, that doesn't mean there's still, as Mark said, there still won't be some problems that come out, blockages and areas that collapse. But we are certainly doing as best that we can to identify problem areas before they really rise to significance. Which brings us to vehicles and equipment, and as addressed in the operating budget meeting, Police Chief Jim Zalaki said the replacement of police patrol cars will come from our Drug Enforcement Agency funds. This is somewhat of a return on investment because we have also dedicated an officer to that task, and this is a way to bring revenue back to the city that can't be used for general fund purposes, but it can be used for qualified police purposes, and vehicle replacement is one. The other item that we have, Mark Roscoe did a very good job of explaining the need for a snow sidewalk machine, a snow machine to plow sidewalks as we're getting that. That's all we have on the capital budget tonight. One thing that I do want to stress in appreciation for this council as well as the council before it, our success in obtaining grants is largely based on support and decisions that the council makes to provide money for preliminary engineering, because a qualifying prerequisite of many of these grants that we apply for is that preliminary engineering has to be completed. It's a way for the grant authorities to also recognize who's serious about a project and who isn't. So I just want to thank you. Our success in obtaining some of these grants would not have been done without the city allowing for the investment, the preliminary investment for engineering. So thank you. And at that, if there are no questions or comments on the capital budget, we can turn it back to you, Sherry, for the other funds.
Okay, we have a few other funds to walk through the budget for fiscal 22, and we can start with motor fuel tax fund. Thanks, Joe. Our motor fuel tax revenue, based on some recent estimates that we got from Illinois Municipal League, is planned to be reducing this coming year by approximately 11%. So our budget reflects that. Currently, we presented an 11% reduction for that MFT revenue. We are anticipating once again installment 3 and 4 of the Rebuild Illinois grant, which I believe is 7 installments, and we received the first 2 in fiscal 21, $357,000, and we are anticipating in fiscal 22 to receive that grant again. As far as expenditures goes, historically in the MFT fund, we've held off on using those funds for any project, anticipating to use them strictly for a big project year to year. And so, as Joe mentioned, in the sidewalk project for Schoenbeck Sidewalks, the wrap-up of that project will be in fiscal 22, and we anticipate spending approximately $269,000 to $270,000 of the MFT funds for that purpose. We do have some reserves in the MFT fund, projected to be $907,000 as of April 30, 21. So, post Schoenbeck Sidewalk project, we will still have a nice $600,000 or so in that fund, holding on for the next capital improvement that we decide. That brings us to our Tif funds. We have the 2 Tifs currently. I know we're working on a third, but for currently we have the Milwaukee Palatine Road Fund, Tif Fund, and the Palatine Road Tif Fund. Last year, September 2020, the Milwaukee Palatine Road Tif expired and was terminated. So we are now gathering final costs and estimates for that fund to be sure all the related expenses are paid. Current funding for this year's budget is at $13,000 of just some final wrap-up costs. We also anticipate the repayment back to the city's general fund of approximately $2 million, and then once all of that is settled, any fund balance, if any, that is remaining is planned to be redistributed back to the members through the state of Illinois. So those calculations are currently in process. Looking ahead to September of 2021, our Palatine Road TIF is due to expire and terminate this coming year. So our budget this year is to capture the last remaining property taxes payable, about $80,000 we expect, with expenditures of approximately $13,000. Once that TIF expires, we will follow the same plan as we are for Milwaukee Palatine. We will gather final costs, make sure everything's paid, and then any remaining increment will be planned for redistribution in fiscal 23. That'll be next year. Okay, next slide. I'll talk a little bit about our tourism fund. We've mentioned it in the past financial reports, their, revenue has declined significantly, as has been done in the entire industry. We are projecting 156,000, which is approximately a 70% decrease from last year. We are hoping our hotel motel partners can prosper over the next year, but the increase is going to be gradual as far as reverting back to pre-pandemic levels. The one expenditure within the tourism fund, as we have limited most of them to only the required costs, our police services, which were reimbursed to us based on the tourism fund agreement, we would get $168,000 reimbursed to the city's general fund for providing police services. That number is based on 42.5% of net revenue collected. And unfortunately, last year, with not collecting that level of funding, our reimbursement coming from tourism fund projected to be $3,000 for fiscal '22. So the general fund will absorb the extra 165 in our general fund budget for fiscal '22. Our solid waste fund continues to come in with positive cash flow. We have the fees budgeted basically to be flat for fiscal '22, and we anticipate that collection to come in just as it always has. From the solid waste fund, we do get a service charge revenue into the general fund, approximately $100,000, and we anticipate the charges that we pay to remain the same. The fund balance projected at April 30, 21, coming up this end of this year, is going to be about $185,000. And so within our budget, we would like to recommend a transfer to capital improvement fund of $85,000 for fiscal '22. As far as our SSAs go, 1 through 4, these SSAs are not currently under a tax levy, so we are not gathering revenue from any active revenue stream, and there are minimal ongoing expenditures for these SSAs. We do have some fund balances remaining in SSA 2, 3, and 4, which we are planning to use for improvements and repairs within those specific areas. So those amounts of money are planned to be used for some improvements within those areas. Our parking fund has taken a hit this year just based on the reduction in demand. With remote working and other restrictions, that parking lot remains basically empty from day to day. Our revenue projected for fiscal '22 budget is only $10,000, from coming down from $56,000 in prior years pre-COVID. Expenditures, we are limiting them to, like I say, just the necessary expenses that are being funded by the city's general fund. This year, we're budgeting a operating transfer to the parking fund of about $105,000 in order to cover those operating costs that are required coming this year. The parking fund historically has been funded by the general fund, and as of 4/30/21, we anticipate an interfund payable to the general fund of approximately $560,000 at this point in time. Next slide. So from our budget, our original budget changes, our original budget presented at the last meeting, there's a couple of changes that we're going to build into the first read that will be presented at the April 12th meeting. The first one, the part-time AV position presented by Treasurer Tibbetts last meeting, was increase in the part-time hours for the AV position from 20 hours per week to 28. That's going to increase our expenses for salaries in that department of approximately $17,000. The second one mentioned by Administrator Joe earlier in our presentation was the change in the income tax revenue number. We are going to reduce that budget from 1.8 to 1.5 based on several criteria. First one being the governor's proposed budget to limit the local government distributive fund by 10%. It's currently in proposed state and needs pending approval by the General Assembly. Municipalities will receive 90% share based on a 2021 rate formula instead of 100% if that budget passes through the General Assembly and is signed into law. The second consideration in income tax revenue is based on the increased unemployment that took place this year. It's going to reduce our 2020 personal income tax payments for a lot of people, a lot of residents. And those tax payments coming into the government in 2021 will be then distributed to municipalities 21-22. So we do anticipate some reduction for that reason. Lastly, just recently passed in the stimulus package was individuals can exclude up to $10,000 in unemployment benefits from their income starting in 2020. So while people did file unemployment and collect unemployment, the first $10,000 will be excluded from taxation on their individual returns. So all those three things coupled together have led us to recalculate that number, and we will plan to reduce that down to 1.5. Lastly, we have the interfund transfer recommendations. We mentioned that we would like approval that you concur with the 105 transfer from general fund to support the operations of the parking fund, and the 85,000 from solid waste to capital improvements based on their ending fund balance that we project at the end of this fiscal. So I'm going to open it up to if anyone has any questions. I'll open it up to council or guests, management, if there are any questions about our presentation on the budget. At this time, any questions? Okay, so without any questions, our next steps, so we're all prepared, we're going to go ahead and make those couple of revisions to the budget, and then this Friday in the administrator's email out to council, we will include our final proposed budget for council review. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to dig into more detail or answer any questions you have. But we are planning to present for first read the proposed budget at April 12th City Council meeting, with final approval to be at the second meeting in April, April 26th, 2021. Thank you. That's all we have for the budget.
And Mr. Mayor, that brings us to the consent agenda.
All right, let's go ahead with that.
We will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second, Cameron.
Thank you.
Let's, none. Let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Dolix,
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams,
Aye.
Alderman Cameron,
Aye.
Alderman Dash,
Aye.
Alderman Quinn.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
No old business, which brings us to item 8, new business. We have a request for waiver. This is, I think we've referenced this before. This is an amendment to our hotel motel tax ordinance. It's a recommendation of the firm that we had hired to do auditing of our various tax sources, and they recognize there's a little bit of a hole in our ordinance regarding the collection of hotel motel taxes from the firms such as Travelocity, Orbitz, and some of those booking services. Both Sherry Grafin and Bob Tannehill worked on this. They were on the call, as well as Tressler attorneys did the legal work on it. So if there are any questions, we were first asking for a waiver, but Sherry and Bob can handle any questions about this ordinance. And if there are none, we will entertain a motion to waive first reading.
Motion to waive. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Alderman Morgan Adams,
Aye.
Alderman Dolick,
Aye.
Alderman Quinn,
Aye.
Alderman Cameron,
Aye.
Alderman Dash,
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Joe, what's next?
Which brings us to B, which would be a formal consideration of this ordinance. It's the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. It's time to have another roll call. Thank you.
Sure. Alderman Dolick,
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams,
Aye.
Alderman Dash,
Aye.
Alderman Quinn,
Aye.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item C, Mr. Mayor, is ordinance establishing water rates. Sherry Grafin does a calculation on this that looks at a number of different costs. I think the capital cost, the cost of actually purchasing the water from Illinois American Water, operational costs. Sherry, is there anything else? You did the work on this, so could you please present it?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Administrator Joe. The water rate historically has creeped up little by little over the past years. This year we're recommending a 1% increase, which is lower than last year. Last year we had the 1.7. The city is a little bit between a rock and a hard place on their water rate. As the costs continue to rise, we are still limited by the number of water meters we have within the city. And so those shared costs are split. I think 1,090 water meters we have currently. Just under that are the ones that are currently in use. And so we try to keep this cost as low as possible because there are so few residents to cost over. The delivery cost, the four components within this are the delivery cost, debt service, infrastructure, and water sales. So the delivery cost is variable. That's prone to increases from year to year. Debt service charges are basically in accordance with what we're required to pay. Infrastructure is for capital improvements and operating needs, and then the water sales component is based on usage and consumption. So this year, like I say, we're recommending the 1% increase to cover those costs and changes within those components at a rate of $54.55 per 1,000 gallons.
And it's just first reading, so this will be coming back at the next meeting.
All right, then we can move on.
Yes, sir. Which brings us to 9, discussion topics for the next workshop meeting. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned the last time economic development.
Yes, I have spoken to Dan, yourself, and anyone else that will listen to me. I want the aldermen to be more involved in what's happening on the streets and byways and highways of our city. By that I mean that when someone comes in for a permit or not necessarily a permit, but a change in what they need to so they can build or buy or whatever what they have in mind, I think the aldermen should be advised at that point. The aldermen should not have to worry about when they are advised of what's happening in their ward. It should be right up front, whether it's a PZBA meeting, whether it's new venture wanting to come into town, etc. So I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to ask the aldermen, when you look at our structure, and I hate to say it all over again, but our hotels, we have 6 hotels, and those 6 hotels needed approximately 70% of operations for us to get our money from the hotel funds, and for them to stay in business. Well, that's a problem because they ran for at least 9 to 12 months at 13%. Now, can you imagine that? If you need $1 and you've got 13 cents in your pocket, you got a problem. Also, it's soon to be common knowledge, I don't mind saying it right now. Hilton is struggling, but they, I think, will survive. The Crown Plaza is struggling. They just spent well over $1 million revamping their entire hotel, and didn't make the anticipated revenue that they thought they would. So they're looking around. They're looking to see if they could sell that hotel. It'll be well worth it if someone has the stamina to wait for another probably a year, maybe 2 years, for the industry to come back and get up to that 70% number. So there's things happening, and aldermen should know what's happening in their ward when it starts to happen, not when it's up for a vote, et cetera. So that's something, I don't know, John O'Driscoll's here. I don't know if we need to create an ordinance. I don't know if we just need to beg or whatever it is. But I think the aldermen have to have more input into what's happening in their ward, and they should have the interest in having input and should ask questions, not just at a meeting like tonight, but every day, pick up the phone. And I also have to caution you, which John is not going to like, our legal bills are going up. Actually, when you look back 3-4 years, when our legal bills are $130,000, and Sherry reported just the other day, or just last time, she gave her report last meeting, that the legal costs were at $600,000. Now, I know that some of it is caused by the Tif needing more expertise for lawyers to charge more. I understand that, but that's a tremendous job. And I ask again, if you have not checked with your city administrator or your mayor, and you just go direct to the firm that's representing us, in this case Tressler, you're making a mistake. You can get the answers right at the front door in City Hall, most of them. If you need a legal situation that, maybe it's private or whatever, you're welcome to call our attorney. You're not welcome to do it and say hello and how are you and all that kind of stuff. They get paid for what they do, and they should be paid for what they do. But we're not helping ourselves by picking up the phone, oh, I'm going to call the lawyer. That's really not the right way to do things, especially if you're money conscious. And not to say they should get reduced fees or anything, not to say that at all. Just be careful of what you use the attorney for, and especially if you have used your city administrator or your mayor as a sounding board for what bothers you. So that's my comment, and I'm not sure how to translate that into an ordinance or just an agreement letter or whatever. John, do you have any ideas on that?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I understand that you want the alderman to, I believe, get more involved, I think you said, but I don't know that would be in an ordinance form.
No, that would not be, but just a call because they don't understand something that could be solved at the city hall level. That's a mistake. That's just not right. And given the budget we're under, given the loss we've had at the hotels, I don't know if they'll ever make it up. They're certainly not going to make up this past year when they were 13% occupied. So I think we have to be fiscally responsible. And to do that is not the idea to pick up the phone and call a lawyer. I just don't believe that is. At times, I think you might have been here, but maybe you weren't, where we even agreed, the council even agreed to not have an attorney at the planning meeting that's coming up, that type of meeting, unless there's something dramatic that we need legal advice on. So I want you to think about that, all of you, and me, and our city staff and our attorney. That's an incredible jump in our legal fees, and we're all agonizing over the budget. So thank you for listening. Joe, let's move on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to approval of warrants. Madam Clerk, could you please review the warrants?
Yes, okay, thank you, Joe. The total of it for expenditures was $173,888.67. We have wire payments, a payroll posting on March 12th, 2021, in the amount of $155,672.37, followed by the February Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, amounted to $24,198.35, bringing the total warrant amount to $353,759.39 for our council's approval, please.
All right, motion to approve as presented.
So moved, Morgan Adams.
Yeah, have a second.
Second.
All right, any further discussion, comments, etc.? All right, no comments? All right, good job, thank you. Let's have a roll call, please.
Alderman Dolick,
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams,
Aye.
Alderman Quinn,
Aye.
Alderman Cameron,
Aye.
Alderman Dash.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Joe?
Item 11, public comment on non-agenda matters. Has anyone registered for comment?
Yes, Joe, we have Marius Volta present with us, and he did register. If he can please step forward.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, City Council. I just want to remind you that you probably well know that April 6th is going to be election for Fort Worth Alderman. That's been said a lot of things about Miss Danielle Dash, that she's running, but I was kind of omitted in mentioning there is a second candidate who is going to be running against her. So I just want to introduce myself quickly, under 5 minutes. My name is Marius Volta, and I've been proud resident of Prospect Heights since 1997. For many years, I have been actively attending and participating in local city council meetings.
All right, I need to stop you for a moment. John O'Driscoll, is this a campaign speech or should it be allowed?
It's allowed, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you very much. For some reasons, I thought it's gonna happen, but yeah. So I decided to run for alderman of Fort Worth because I strongly believe that concerns of the residents of Prospect Heights are not well represented, and so I want to let you know that I'm independent party, not affiliated with any interest group. I will try to hear all voices in my ward and bring the resolution to long-standing issues. Here's a little bit about myself. I'm proudly married to my wife for 35 years. I have 5 wonderful children, and I'm the business owner of the accounting firm. Over the years, I learned a great deal of serving public in the Chicago Public School, Parish Council, and St. Joseph the Worker, and currently I'm serving on the board of directors for non-for-profit organizations. So Prospect Heights has been my home for 24 years. Our community deserves proper representation in local city council. And Mr. Mayor, I want to give you great thing which is just said about economic development community and Chamber of Commerce. Just because we depend on a sales tax, and in one of my interviews with the Daily Herald, I was pushing that we should reopen the things about the Chamber of Commerce. We rely on a sales tax, And we have a lot of people on our website, on the city website we have a lot of businesses listed already. And I think we should do everything to have our own Chamber of Commerce of Prospect Heights. We have enough people, we have enough businesses, and I think with your leadership and the business knowledge, you can make this happen and make those businesses realize they are doing business in the great city of Prospect Heights. And that's why we're gonna make more money on the sales tax. I really appreciate you listening to me, and let's hope everybody is gonna vote whoever can on April 6th. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone else, Joanna?
Mayor
No,
Helmer-
that, oh, I'm
Mayor
sorry,
Helmer,
go ahead.
this is Danielle Dash, Alderman of Ward 4.
Yes.
I guess I just want to state for the record that under no circumstance have I used the venue of a city council meeting to at all promote my candidacy for the April 6th election, not once. So I take offense that my opponent is claiming that I've used this venue to promote my candidacy, which I have not.
All right, thank you. What else do we have?
No executive session is requested tonight, which brings us to item 14, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Let's do a second.
Second, Morgan Adams.
All right, let's do a voice for everybody. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.